Good afternoon or good evening. We were supposed to have the session earlier, around 3:30, and I was a little worried because that was the first session post-lunch. So I was worried that it's a post-lunch graveyard shift session, and it's always risky, right, to have everybody awake. Thanks to Alex and Advait for having those sessions, post-lunch and energizing the crowd with your great sense of humor. Thanks so much. Of course, Alex and Advait did the job. But I was very, very confident of our panel out here. They are an esteemed panel. The introduction has already been given. So I don't want to again, go on with the introduction, because if I did, half an hour will be spent in talking about the laurels that they have achieved. So we will stick to the topic instead, which is impact of AI. I will also try and include HR tech. So impact of AI and HR tech on HR and the challenges and opportunities. So we all know that with the advent of AI and technology, the HR landscape has gone through a sea change, right? We all know about it. And what has happened is that all the traditional practices have now changed, and the very essence of workplace management and employee engagement has gone to a different level altogether. So on that note, I would like to put the first question to Sil. Have you seen AI and technology reshape traditional HR practices? Obviously, you must have seen already. But what about your organization, specific to your organization? And could you share some examples related to it?
Yeah, thanks. I actually had a closed door session just last week, and we were talking about AI agent. So typically in the traditional space, we would typically have our HR specialists talking about employee relations related questions. So for example, if I were to ask my HR specialist, how many days of annual leave do I have? They say that, I will try to come back to you within 48 hours because I have a lot of things on my plate. But now, given that we have used AI, and AI actually got back an answer within 5 seconds. So you can then see that there is an increase in terms of productivity by at least 98%. So this is in the employee relations space. But when we talk about, so just now, so my fellow Singaporean friend was asking me about how do I implement AI in my organization, and one of it is a AI coaching avatar. So we have partnered with a company that really talks about coaching for new managers. So typically, if you are an individual contributor, you got promoted. Would you always want to ask your manager, sir, ma'am, how do I actually say no to my employee because I do not know how to say no, so what should I do? Do you think your manager has time to actually answer your question? Probably not. So what we have done is, I'm not sure, but my team actually said that, hey, Sil, you are very approachable. And that's why when new managers actually came on board, they would like to say, hey, Sil, can I have 20 minutes with you? So that 20 minutes actually dragged to an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, but I don't have time for that. So I actually work with a vendor to really talk about a coaching avatar. So what it means is that I would have a solid set of coaching certifications that is being embedded into the avatar, and whatever has been discussed is actually not known to HR. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? What do you think? It's a good thing, right? Yeah? 50-50? Okay. So I was sharing with my friend that initially when we launched this coaching avatar, I have probably about 7% engagement rate with that tool. But we launched a series of change management methodology. So after about 2 months, we actually hit 100% that actually goes through the coaching avatar. And in 8 months' time, we actually increases 71% touch point rate for people, for new managers who touch on the coaching avatar for more than 3 times. Do I really know what they are talking about? Actually, I'm not interested because they actually do not want to come to me anymore, which is great. But when they actually said that, hey, Sil, I had a different opinion from this because this is really for new managers. I am slightly more experienced. I would like to get a different opinion from you. I said, yeah, sure. But the original status that I had, which is more of, I have probably about at least 18 managers who come to me in 1 month, now dropped to 3 managers. And that's great. So from a productivity angle, I increased that. And to me, AI really helped me a lot. So just like I stated 2 examples. So my last example is on performance management. So I believe all of us are HR here. Have you ever had managers coming to you to say that I need help to do goal setting? Can you raise your hands? No one? Does your managers reach out to you to say that I need help on goal setting? Yeah, right? So do they actually also need your help to say that how do I measure them? How do I measure my coworkers? While they understand goal setting, they do understand how to measure, they do understand, they still want HR to help. So we have included something called the Performance Inclusion Advisor that actually helps them to say that, okay, while you are writing this, it also means that this is a B+, for example. And that is a recommended one. Managers can actually override that, but of course you have to write some justifications and whatnot. But so the AI in the Performance Management Advisor actually helps them with that. So that is really something that I think I'm pretty proud of.
That's really, really wonderful to hear, Sil. In fact, we have been using, a coach, AI coach for first-time managers. Because first-time managers are always confused as to how should they handle people. And the AI coach has given very, great perspectives. And basically the first-time manager can get into a conversation with the AI coach to understand how to handle tricky situations, how to handle conflicts, so on and so forth. So this is also something which we have adopted for first-time managers, and we have seen great results, and that has built confidence in our first-time managers. So I can very well relate to you. Coming to the next question, that's for Renu. I'm sure you must have used a lot of AI tools in recruitment. All of us have in some way or the other. So have you seen any, a substantial improvement in the quality of hires due to usage of these AI tools? That is the first part. And the second part was also about onboarding. Like, have you used any AI tools in onboarding, and how has it improved the employee experience?
Thank you, everyone, and good evening to the beautiful audience here. So thanks, Sushmita, for these questions. I think my talent acquisition manager is here, and she'll agree when I say that statistics show that 52% of recruiters find it extremely boring and time-consuming to screen CVs. The thousands and thousands of resumes that hit our emails, that hit our ATSs every single day. And I think that is where AI has helped us the most when we talk of parsing of resumes, or when we talk of screening of resumes for shortlisting. I think that's where the biggest advantage has come to us in. And it has also helped us particularly in eliminating biases of gender, because we are a tech company and we still are a long way to go in terms of reaching parity in gender bias. But I think it has eliminated a lot because we don't look at gender. I mean, AI doesn't look at gender anymore, so it gives a fair opportunity to all employees. So I think the time saving in terms of screening resumes and the diversity or equality that we've been able to achieve are two of our biggest successes. Needless to say, the common ones when we talk of a chatbot to answer standard queries of candidates, that's the basic one. So yes, that is there. We have been using AI. Very recently, we've started using AI for pre-employment assessments. Too early to comment on how that's going to help us, but yeah, I think it's been very well received so far. What we intend to do very soon is get into predictive analysis with the help of AI. We are working on that because we are looking at very large hiring numbers in the days to come. So what I can just say confidently is over the last 1.5 years, we've increased our employee strength by almost 100% with just one addition to the TA team. So I think that speaks volumes on how AI has helped us in making our work faster, easier. Having said that, I think what we've been discussing all through the day, we need to be very careful about the elements that we can take help of AI from, and what are those elements that still need a human face. So yes, while we can use AI for screening, shortlisting candidates, but I think that final interface, because the culture of the organization is what we always talk about, the fitment, culture fitment when we hire is extremely important. And that's where the human aspect of it has to come. The culture interviews most definitely need to be taken by a person so far, because I think AI still has some time to reach that stage where we'll be able to understand that sensitivity. So yes, it's going to be always a combination of AI and people which is going to stay. In terms of onboarding, your second part of the question, so far not much. We've only been using onboarding communication to send to new joinees through AI. We are still in the process of seeing how we can customize it to individual new joinee requirements. But yes, what we've used automation very beautifully is in gamification of our onboarding process. So that's what we do very interestingly, and all of our new joinees find that very exciting. So whatever we cover, we gamify it, we do quizzes, we do games and all. So that has made it very exciting. So that part we've, I think, done well. And yeah, it's a long way to go. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes, I think usage of AI in recruitment, I can say for our organization that it has, reaped a lot of benefits. We have reaped a lot of benefits in terms of, we've been using conversational AI for interviews, which has been a game changer for us. And that has, so we have also inbuilt our interview assessment form in the conversational AI, and based on the interviews, the AI gives such beautiful insights based on the, your body language, your tonality of the voice, and it fills up your IAF, and you could, obviously, as you said, the human intervention is very important, and, it is always, we can't leave it to AI, so we do those minor tweaks. But you'll be amazed how AI reads everything, and what you wanted to really write, AI has already captured that in the interview assessment form. So that is one area where we have used AI in recruitment, and we've seen phenomenal, benefit, and has actually saved a lot of time, and has also been able to remove a lot of biases, the unconscious biases that we have. So AI has definitely helped there. So my next question is again to Sil. Sandeep, I'll come to you later. So the question is that how can HR professionals effectively leverage data analytics to drive strategic decisions? And what data points have you found valuable?
Yeah, probably I will ask the ground. Do you know what data analytics is? Just one. Ma'am, would you like to answer? Do you know what data analytics means? Okay, very, very good. Can I have your name, please? Padmuja. Yeah, thank you so much. So when we talk about data analytics, someone said that, hey, Sil is really good in data analytics. But am I really good at that? No. I'm not good in data analytics. But I'm very good in storytelling with the data analytics. So I don't believe that. I felt that people say that, hey, Sil is very good. She's a guru in data analytics and I do everything. I only can look at the numbers to identify trends, insights, and turn that into a story to influence and persuade my stakeholders. So I am not very good at massaging the numbers with Power BI or with Click or whatever, but I'm good to come out with a story. So to give you an example, just now when we were talking about it, and data analytics, is it easy? I think so. With the help of HR tech and tools, and it's becoming easier. But is it easy to tell a story? No. Unless you understand three things. One, organizational context. Second, commercial and industry acumen. And third is the talent organizational acumen. These three things can actually combine to help you tell a convincing story. So I probably wanted to throw another question. Just last year, so I need to prepare a, we call it the budget exercise. And I am actually a big advocate of well-being. So I know that my India team actually also spoke to the president to actually get a budget for well-being. And they actually secured about 10,000 US dollars, yeah, to do the well-being in India. Whereas, do I cover India? I cover part of the business units in India, but I don't manage the entire India. So there is a HR director for that. So for the business unit that I was managing, I says that, okay, I want a well-being kind of budget. So do you want to guess how much budget do I secure for this year as compared to the India team? So India is 10,000 US dollars. I secure, okay, yes. I secure 450,000 US dollars. Yeah. Just purely looking at analytics, I look at medical data, I look at insurance data, premium renewals, and these are the data that actually I pull out with my insurance company, my brokers, in order to help me to analyze the data. And last year, I had a very big success in APJ, APAC and Japan, something called Lose to Win. So lose to win is not losing weight to look pretty, slim, and all those things. What we mean by lose to win is to decrease the visceral fats in the body, and in turn actually helps with chronic illnesses. So we achieve a very, very good success rate, and that is probably one of the data points that actually convinced the leadership team to really look a little bit more into not just physical health, but also mental health. So when I actually did that, the India HR leader was telling me, hey, Sil, you must be kidding. What have you done? I said, I did not do anything. I just focused on the HR or data analytics, on Power BI, and transform that into a storytelling. So coming back to the question on, is it the data points that we are looking at? So aside from the well-being story, there's another data point that I thought is really interesting, is time to productivity matrix. So anyone in this room that actually measures time to productivity, from new hire that signs the contract all the way until the person is 100% productive in their job. Anyone? Any companies that actually measures that? Okay, that's great. Two companies, Oracle, I'm sure you have to do that. So we actually did that as well. But that also helped us to really deep dive into something called the workforce capacity planning. And we also looked at capacity management, and some of the roles are gone. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that we become less productive, because that actually gives rise to fractional roles. So when we talk about fractional roles, I think all HR people here, we typically will understand that for fractional roles, they are like your full-time role, but they are on a project basis and they work across multiple countries, multiple companies, but of course they have to sign NDAs and whatnot to prevent conflict of interest. But when we are looking at all this, these are the little matrices that actually help us. Is that really true? That we need to have so many headcounts, or can we do more with less? I think that's really something to think about.
Thank you so much. Very valid point. Coming to Sandeep now. Okay, given the potential for algorithmic bias, what measures do you think should be put in place to ensure a fair and equitable use of AI in HR processes?
Yeah, thank you, Sushmita, for this question, and good evening once again, everyone. We've been talking about AI. My fellow Pell members have talked about how she's implemented AI into recruitment, onboarding, and then we talked a lot about data analytics, actually. But if you look at AI, to visualize, AI is like a virtual superhuman, and then algorithm is the mind given to that particular superhuman, virtual superhuman. But having said that, algorithm has to be moderated. Algorithm works on data. And when it comes to data, as all of us would agree and accept some point of time, is we all continuously evolve in terms of how we measure, manage, and analyze data. So the quantity and quality of the data is very important in terms of when we are working with algorithms, working on top of these data. And some of us who work more on the algorithm side, we talk about supervised algorithm. Then there is non-supervised algorithm, and then we also call it as a semi-supervised algorithm, and then we call it as a reinforced learning patterns, right? So just to quickly summarize, supervised algorithm is where you have a human constantly working with data models, giving the feedback, and making sure this model matures as we go to the next model. Semi-supervised is combination of both, where there is an independent algorithm, just works on data, interprets and analyzes data, and then there is a portion of supervision about it. But then what is most dangerous is the unsupervised learning pattern from algorithm, where you just leave the algorithm to analyze the data, interpret it, and give you decision-making aspects, right? And then reinforcement is again furthermore dangerous, where you just let it go in terms of whatever limited data is available, you analyze it, give me a result, and I'll start acting upon it. So all of this has to be moderated, and that brings me to the second most important part, as most of us have talked about, is human intervention or human involvement when it comes to moderating algorithm. One thing Sil also talked about is how heavily they have invested in terms of employee well-being. So some of the things that we need to be cautious in terms of working with algorithm is that it does not essentially go in terms of aspects like cultural integration and employee well-being components, and especially in an environment like hybrid work, remote working, where employees prefer to be close to family. When you look at in terms of productivity, efficiency, you need to look at all these components as to how cultural work models are also impacting the performance matrices. So all this calibration is equally important when we say human moderation is required in terms of these algorithms. So some of the best practices that we have learned all these during this journey is one, if you have to be successful fast, pick up the high cost process, which is pretty much standardized. And that is the first way in terms of achieving your success when it comes to running an algorithm based upon an analytics model. Second, constant reinforcement, as I said, human has to be on top of this algorithm to see what analysis is coming in, what decisions are being made, and then moderate culturally, whether it is suitable for your company's insight or not. Couple of examples I'll quickly give. While we have invested heavily in terms of our AI team, some of the learnings we had in process is that we're working upon this predictive attrition model, right? With the limited data, we started this entire model, probably last 3 years data that we had, organized all the data points that we wanted. Now, surprisingly, this predictive analytics model, the first prediction it gave is probably out of my top 10 leaders, 3 are going to leave, right? And that's where we're surprised. How come this model is giving this prediction that my top 3 out of 10 are going to leave us? And then when we dug into the data, coincidentally, it happened that in the last 3 years, one of the management person actually left us because of some personal reasons, right? Now that took that as a trend and extrapolated it and worked in terms of what is the percentage of senior management would leave if this is the trend. But that's where we say caution is required. Data quantity and quality, extremely important in terms of how in depth you can go. The other example, again, which surprises us, that we're working on the talent management, talent mobility exercise, where because the current participation of women in the leadership role is little less than what we want to, but when it came to talent mobility, identifying high potential, the prediction was equally low. Because the model thought that probably the participation of women in a leadership role would be based upon the trend that you have in last 3-4 years, right? Whereas as a company, we wanted to change that pattern and invest more and more in terms of moving our women leaders to senior most responsibilities. So again, that's a second example where we fall that no, algorithms have to be moderated regularly. So lastly, in terms of best practices, governance mechanism is extremely important. So we talk about 3 types of governance mechanism, or a committee if you are kind of forming, which will oversee how algorithms are working. One obviously is the technical government, where you have someone technology expert who's coming in and looking in terms of how the maths work in terms of algorithm. Then second is in terms of cultural validation, where you need a cultural expert like HR to be part of this entire decision-making process. And third is how the human aspect comes in the picture in terms of how the communication works with this particular data and what you communicate end of the day to the employees. So these are the governance, again broadly working under a compliance framework of ethics governance body. So these 3 things, culture, human aspect, data, technology piece, and ethics, this all put together is your what governing body should be in terms of moderating all the algorithms that you're putting into AI tools. Yep. So that's how we work with algorithms.
Thank you so much, Sandeep, for your insights. Now, coming to the human aspect, my next question to Renu is around this. With the growing digitization of HR processes, how do you ensure a human-centric approach while using AI and technology and automation?
I think that's a very interesting question, and I'd like to start with this reel which has been doing the rounds of social media, that knowledge is knowing tomato is a fruit, but wisdom is not putting it in a fruit salad. So we all know that AI is here to stay. That's knowledge. Where and how do we use AI is going to be the wisdom that I think we as HR professionals need to practice. AI is here to stay. I mean, we've seen that since morning. It's not going anywhere. So I think the key thing is that the fear that is there in the employees that AI is going to take over my job or I'm going to lose my job because of AI is something that HR has to play a very important role in. That's where the human aspect of it is going to come into. How do we upskill our employees? See, the traditional jobs are going to change. We just heard Alex, and then we heard even earlier in the afternoon that the traditional roles are not going to remain as they are in the times to come. And what we need to do is we need to upskill our employees to take over the changing roles. We need to invest a lot in a culture that enables learning for our team members. I think that's where we are going to play a very, very important role as HR. The cultural shift, the mindset change. We as an organization, for example, almost 2 years ago ran an exercise where we started it as a mandate, compulsory, that everyone has to do AI prompt courses and trainings and certification. We came with a lot of resistance that why, I mean, it's needed. And today, the same set of people are very happy when they come back to us saying, thank you that you forced us to do that, it's really helping us now. So what started as maybe compulsion, as a stick, now I think is appreciated. And today I'm very happy to say that as HR team, when we roll out any AI initiatives, we are treated with a lot more positive response, because our employees are seeing that we are genuinely doing it. It's out of concern, it's out of securing their future to be ready for a time when AI is going to take up the autonomous jobs. Another thing what we have to understand, and I think Sil brought it up very beautifully, is on mental health of employees, because AI is causing a lot of anxiety, is causing a lot of, disturbance in employees. And we are seeing it, especially in, the younger generation, because of various reasons. And I think very importantly, we need to invest in mental health of our employees. We need to make them ready. And so AI both helps in addressing mental health as well as creating mental health issues. So we need to balance that. I think that's very important. So another thing that we need to be very mindful of is how different generations of employees are responding to the use of AI in the company. So the younger generation, while is very happy to be answered by bots and to be answered by technology, the older generation still feels comfortable when there is a human addressing their concerns and talking to them. So I think we need to be mindful of that generational gap as well, especially in older organizations which have a gamut of employees across various ages. So I think we need to be sensitive about that as well as HR professionals. So I'd just like to end by saying that, we should let AI handle the what of it, meaning the data, the automation, the efficiency, but the how of it. So coming back to empathy, what many of my previous speakers have spoken about, or judgment, or people relationships, I think that is best left to people, in the HR department. So I think that's where I'd like to end. Thank you so much.
Couldn't agree with you more. The last question to Sandeep before we wind up. So what do you think would be the emerging technologies technologies or trends in the coming 5 to 10 years that will impact HR?
Yeah, interesting question, and there is no specific answer that I can say, because we don't know what is going to come in next 3 to 5 years as we kind of navigate the challenges. But the answer would be kind of summary of all the points that we discussed, starting from what's essentially driving the future of HR is starting from the whole AI being introduced into HR, how HR continues to make a data-driven decisions, but along with that continue to have a human touch. More importantly, she just talked about how are you going to deal with multi-generational workforce. We are just discussing some of the earlier sessions about millennials percentages increasing the workforce. Gen Z is now coming in, and someone also referred about alpha is going to come in. So each of these generations deal with their employment aspects very differently, and that's one of the important challenges that we need to deal as an HR is how do we make it relevant for them. And that comes to the another trend which is called hyper-personalization. So each of these generations don't want a one-size-fits solution. They continue to mean in terms of if this is something which is important for me, deliver it to me in the way that I want it. So hyper-personalization definitely is one of the important things. But to manage all of these things as an HR professionals, one of the important priority on the table always would be leadership development. How do we continue to evolve our leaders in terms of being able to manage these digital transformations, cultural changes, educating them on AI culture, algorithms, and then equipping them to lead this entire workforce in future to come in. And end of the day, I talked about importance of governance. While we all talk about great things on AI and algorithm, governance is something which will drive next 3 to 5 years as government itself is coming up with data protection laws, the regulatory authorities which are increasingly worried about how AI is being introduced in various processes, especially on the company side. So ethics, cultural governance is equally important as we scale up. So these are some of the important trends that we all should look forward to work together.
Thank you so much, Sandeep. I think we've run out of time. So thank you so much, all of you, for your insights and leaving us with some food for thought. And thank you, wonderful audience, for staying awake and, engaging in the discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Smita. Thank you, everyone.